Okay, so let's talk about eighth grade and Enya song. I know the
Yeah,
Enya song well. Heard it a lot in the '80s. It was
it's right when
I
we were
think
at right when we were at Sunrise, wasn't
that's
it?
right. Would have been Sunrise, like mid to late '80s sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'll say up front, I know nothing about the movie. Um, the Enya, it's funny with Enya because I think that song and Enya in general was someone who probably a lot of people like us, like rock critic types, whatever, probably made fun of Enya in some ways at the time. I think I did.
Absolutely.
I did for sure. I thought she was kind of ridiculous, but it's a good song. I mean, it actually holds up. I mean, it's a little sort of has that prim and proper thing, but no. And I watched the clip with you right now, and it's really nice clip. So yeah, tell
Well,
tell me a little bit about the movie and the song in the movie.
okay, so I mentioned exactly the same thing in the write-up that it was a song that I was just predisposed to ridicule and everything because it was she was British, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
So
Definitely not American. I thought she might be from somewhere else, but I'm not sure.
yeah, it was arty, it was precious.
Precious. That's the
Um,
perfect word, sort of.
it sort of fits in. I think there was other stuff at that time, like I'm getting a name. You can correct me on the name, Tanita Tikram or something.
Yeah, Tanita Tikarim, and there was that Martika. But yeah, Tanita
Mart,
Tikarim
yeah. Well,
for sure did.
Martika's probably different. I think I even at the time, believe it or not, before her second album, I think I probably grouped Sinead O'Connor in with that stuff.
Yeah, a little bit.
Uh,
Yeah. And
New
I
York,
think to bring it home to my world today, I think some of that stuff even comes a little bit out of Kate Bush. And
oh, absolutely.
I
There you
posted a
go.
Kate
That's the
Bush
start of
album
it.
on Facebook today, and
Yeah,
it's
I
kind of
saw it. I
like,
saw it.
it kind of there's that whole sort of era of these very particular type of female artists. I don't know what you. It's not rock and roll as we would have thought of it at the time, kind of thing.
Well, Kate Bush, I think absolutely, she's the start of that. And there are two or three Kate Bush songs I love, although overall, I wouldn't say I'm that big a fan or know her music that well. Anyway, so I did, and I had to admit to myself at the time I liked Orinoco Flow, and it was kind of a big college radio hit, or it probably even got onto the pop charts. But then I forgot all about it. I hadn't thought about the song or heard the song. And that's 88, so we're looking at almost 30 years. I just it disappeared from the world. It seemed like
Yeah.
it's not anything you would still hear on the radio. So I'm watching this film, eighth grade, which got a lot of attention when it came out. It was a very kind of it was different than other coming of age films. They seemed to sort of strip away some of the gimmickry of other films. They had a girl, the lead girl, which was probably unusual. She is, you saw the clip. She doesn't look glamorous, right? Like she looks sort of like what most kids look like. So it was very realistic in that sense. She's very quiet, morose, and all of that. And it got a lot of attention. I didn't like it as much as everyone else the first time. The one thing, and I talked about it in the review, that threw me was the key relationship in the film in some ways between her and her father, and yet she is so nasty to her father, and her father's so supportive. I just found a little bit of a disconnect there. It's like her father forgives her for everything, and at one point says, I know how much you love me. And then if you're watching the film, you go, well, how would you know that? Because she's just so unremittingly nasty to you.
Yeah.
Second time I went back to it, it didn't seem like that big a deal. As far as her story, it's really good. She spends her life, she lives vicariously through the internet and through her computer. Her interactions with the people at school aren't much. She tries to befriend this group of, the cool girls in the school, and they're mean to her. One of them gets forced into inviting her to a pool party or something. And Orinoco, and she's a video blogger, a YouTuber. I don't think anybody watches her channel. It's supposed to be sort of just like the diary of a grade 8 girl or whatever. And
Is it about as popular as these talks are going to be, would you say? Or?
Exactly. Sorry. I think you're still talking about the film. You're talking about us.
Yeah.
More or less. She's getting it out of her system in grade 8.
We're vloggers, aren't we?
She's not two 50-year-old guys doing it, for the benefit of no one.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott, you just ruined this whole thing for me now. So to get back to her problems, and she has this sign off. She always goes Gucci, and it's sort of funny, but you feel sad for her. Anyway, Orinoco Flow, I don't remember the exact context, but she just goes up to her room one night. She probably had a bad day, and she puts on her laptop, and it's just this amazing tour as the song plays, which is just a perfect song for the visuals. She goes through this tour like a teenager, or grade 8. She is a teenager, probably 14, I guess. A teenager's, a younger teenager, an 18-year-old would be different. A grade 8 student's view of the world through the internet, and the stuff she looks at. Some of it, okay, I get it. Some of it makes no sense to me because it's Instagram and stuff I don't know about, Snapchat or whatever. She goes to these sites, and it's just weird. And she scrolls across a kind of nasty note from that girl. Says it's great the way it's worded. It's so precise to how a girl that age would talk. She says, "Oh, my mother forced or wanted me to invite you to the party, so this is what I'm doing. So this is me doing that." And it's just the most half-hearted invitation. And then she ends up, I think, on the Instagram or Snapchat page of the boy she has a crush on. She's at a Disney site, or she's at some weird anime sites. Again, some of it, I say, okay, I know what that is, and other stuff, it's from a world I don't know. And it's just amazing in connection with the song.
Let me say it, let me say it, let the Orinoco flow, let me reach, let me beach, the shores of Tripoli. Let me say it, let me crush upon your shore. Let me reach, let me beach, for the yellow sea.
And I said, I'm glad, I really am glad I was not, when I was a teenager, I'm glad the internet wasn't there, because I think it does long term. I don't want to get you worried because you got a teenage daughter and a couple sons coming up, but I think for some kids it's going to do long term damage. And again, we get back to the joke of how much time I waste on it, internet Scrabble and all that. I even say that in the write up. I go, I know that there are worlds tailor made to somebody my age too. Not like I'm guiltless here. I waste endless hours on the internet, but at the same time, my self is already formed, it's different.
Yeah.
It's
And
different.
I think it's more than a case of just if you're talking about the impact it will have on does have on some people, younger people. It's not just about the time wasting part of it, right? It's just
No, it's not.
different.
It's their whole
They just
conception.
sound like the old man, but just a completely different set of values that come with it and stuff, right? Oh, believe me,
Yeah.
I'm seeing lots of it already. I don't want to go into it here, but it's a tricky world to navigate now with that stuff. So
Oh, I know.
different.
And the film is very smart about stuff like that, because she ends up, she gets, and we're back to the dazed and confused thing, where you have these grade 8, graduating grade 8 kids interacting, and they're like mentored. They spend a day, or they befriend. They've got this program where they befriend high school kids. So she ends up befriending or being under the tutelage of this girl in grade 12. And it's great because she's like a version of, I forget the character's name now, Kayla or Kaylee or something. I think Kayla. She's a version. That she's the girl that Kayla, the 18-year-old that Kayla's going to grow up to be. It's funny. She's really nice to her and everything. Unlike Dazed and Confused, they're very supportive. Anyway, they're sitting around talking, the 18-year-old with 2 or 3 of her friends, and Kayla just glad to be sitting listening to them. And they talk about how, wow, it's so weird for us to talk to you, because when we were your age, whatever, Instagram was just new, and our world is Instagram, and for you it's Snapchat. And there's these real particular distinctions that 2 years is like a century,
Yeah.
In fact, even today, or a couple of days ago, somebody on LX who had a daughter posted that her kids, they didn't do literally nothing about Facebook, or his daughter and friends. They didn't. It was like talking about what do you call the old telegraph machines or something.
Yeah.
Facebook.
So one question with the Enya song in the movie. So it's not an obvious question, but it's not like she's not listening to the song. It's soundtracking what she's doing.
It's
right?
soundtracking what she couldn't
Yeah.
possibly be listening to it. There'd be no reason. I mean, I guess you could say she's playing it in her room well, but no, it's just the director decided to overlay this song. And I think he made a great choice.
Do you think in all of the like between all of the movies you've written about and all the uses of music,
Yeah.
do you think is it possible to say that just based on quantity alone, do you think you have a preference for music that's excuse me used in movies as soundtracking like the Enya, or music that's used where it's specifically like part of, like it's embedded in the scene, the characters are clearly listening to the song?
Yeah. I think the word, I probably used it a couple times in the book. I think it's diegetic. I have that I can answer easily. I have a pronounced preference for music that is chosen by the director. And what I always find interesting is when I'm not sure which it is. And I went back, we were talking about the satisfaction scene in Mad Men. I went back and I added a whole new paragraph to the introduction because I wanted to talk about that particular scene and how that was summed up a lot of what I thought was great about Mad Men. That's a scene where we were talking about it. I'm not sure if that's the director or if that's playing on the street. Yeah, there's no indication one way or the other.
Clear.
Is it in Dom's head? Is it song he heard on the radio a few days before, and he's thinking about it now as he steps out onto the street?
And it clearly could be anything. Clearly could be either, right?
Could be. I like that too. But between the two that you mentioned, I just think when the director, sometimes it can even be clumsy when you try to work it in diegetically. And the examples I would go to would be jukeboxes that have the Velvet Underground on them.
Right.
That's in Adventureland. Pale Blue Eyes. There's no jukebox in the world that's going to have Pale Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
Well,
there's more space for a movie or a director to do fantastical, interesting things if like the imagination can run more wild, I guess, if you're not like if it's in the scene, then it has to sort of be true to the scene, and that can maybe be a little harder to pull off. Now we'll get to the Virgin Suicides scene, and that'd be one of the best of it.
That might be the
film itself, obviously.
That might be my greatest example of working it into the film. Yeah. We'll save that for them, but that's a good point. So Orinoco Flow, though, I don't think there's any doubt because there's no reason in the world. The only kids her age that know about Enya, they're found in Big Little Lies, where you've got 10-year-olds that know about Janis Joplin, and the 14-year-olds that's playing her. Maybe she's 16. She's playing Babe Ruth on her iPod.
Right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, that cracked me up. And again, that's funny. That's sort of the director. It's almost it's so funny that I like it. I'm not complaining because that's almost making a joke of forcing the music into the thing diegetically. I want to use this Babe Ruth song. I'll have the 16-year-old play it on her iPad. In 2015 or whatever. So 8th grade, and then it got so much attention. Then it's got by a guy, somebody is the director. I think he's an actor too, and I don't know. I don't know if it's a film. I think it's Dellio Come. It got a flurry of attention. Then it didn't really get nominations at awards time. Maybe it got a screenplay nomination or something. But I think things will come around, and it'll be in there with Fast Times at Ridgemont High and all these great coming of age films.
It's funny, last comment about the Enya song. In some ways, when I hear it now, it's almost like, and maybe because it's, she's just this sort of weird sort of shot in the dark artist who had her moment and then disappeared. But it's almost like, in some ways, it's 80s bubblegum in a weird way. Like, it's not what you'd normally think of as bubblegum music, but it's got, like, now you can kind of hear it that way, right? Like, at the time, it seems so, like, as you say, precious and stuff. But now that it's entirely removed from that concept, I could imagine someone 20 years younger than us hearing that and thinking, oh, this is just like such a goofy 80s sort of song. But
Yeah.
so
You know, one of the reasons she may have disappeared, someone pointed out to me on ILM that after Orinoco Flow, she never played another live show in her life. She
Really?
retired from playing live music and seemed to disappear.